Good afternoon and welcome to this webinar hosted by InMobi. My name is Supriya Goswami and I head marketing for the APAC region at InMobi. I hope you all can hear me. Please do raise your hands using the tool or drop in a note in the questions window. Perfect. So just a very quick note on logistics. We will be taking questions after the webinar. If you have any question during the webinar, you can just use the tool and drop a note in the questions window. And towards the end, we'll take it from there. So as a quick introduction, InMobi enables consumers to discover new products and services by providing contextual and curated recommendations on mobile devices. At InMobi, we regularly host a series of events, meetups, webinars across the globe to share best practices and learnings. In today's webinar titled The Ultimate Survival Kit for Mobile Marketers, we will be sharing some key insights around mobile advertising in 2016 and key trends that you need to watch out for in 2017. So, joining me for today's webinar is Vasudha Agarwal. Vasudha is the Vice President and GM for the India market at InMobi. She is responsible for the strategic roadmap and revenue for InMobi's India business across both demand and supply, including performance, brand, and programmatic channels. So, let's begin. In terms of our agenda today, we do have we'll be talking about the mobile marketing trends for 2017. In addition, we've also built a simple checklist in the as a mobile marketing guide for all of you. And for all of those of you who have registered for the webinar, we'll be sharing this guide towards the end of the session. But during the webinar, we'll focus more on the trends for 2017. And let's deep dive into the trends right away. But before that, we have a quick poll question for you. This question is going to come up on your screens shortly. The question is, we really want to understand, a little bit more about you. So what's your company type? If you can just select one of these options, we have, are you a brand advertiser, performance marketer, publisher, agencies, or, somebody else. So we'll give it a few seconds. Moving on, in terms of ad spends on mobile video are absolutely poised to explode. So I have a quick poll question before we get into the details here. What's the share of your mobile advertising? What share of your mobile advertising budget has been allocated to video? Just a quick snapshot if we can see from the audience. Okay, I can see large percentage of people have voted. We'll just give it a couple of more seconds. Okay, so let's close the vote. We have about 56% of people. 56% of people just substitute about, just put in less than 10% of their budgets towards video. We have 5% of people who put in greater than 5%, greater than 50% of their budgets on mobile video, and the rest of are in between. So we close the poll and move on to the presentation. In 2016, actually, 24% of digital ad spend was allocated to mobile video alone. And by 2020, mobile video ad spend is projected to be greater than 50% of online spends. So clearly, we're going to see an increasing upward trend in terms of mobile video ad spends over the next couple of years. Also, if you look at the data on the InMobi network, mobile video ad spend on the InMobi network itself grew by 150% over the last 3 quarters in 2016. This is just some data, but as ad spends are increasing, what we are seeing is that there is significant innovation in video ad formats as well. And I have, just want to take you through one or two examples of the kind of innovation that we are seeing. These are on this slide. We have two examples of 360-degree videos. The first one is of Samsung. This was a 360-degree video played during the time of the Rugby World Cup. And, depending on each user, how they rotated their phone, they saw different dimensions of a game of rugby being played. So this is highly bespoke, customized experience, really, makes the user very highly engaging as well. And if you look at some of the metrics of this, we were able to touch more than 1 million users were exposed to the ad, a very high engagement rate. And the ad campaign won a bunch of awards at the MMA as well, in the mobile video and innovation categories. So that's one example. And on the right hand side is another example of again from Samsung. This is when Samsung was launching uh, their VR headset along with the Samsung Galaxy S7. They did very focused targeting, where they targeted social influencers and entertainment enthusiasts. And if you So again, this is a kind of experience that no other medium can really provide you. You've got a VR headset, and through the advert itself, you get a vicarious experience of what your experience is going to be with the headset. Um, I'll take you through these two examples again. This is of full screen vertical videos, one of the most engaging formats. You don't have to rotate your screen. You get to use the full real estate. And here's the first video for you. So this ad again did really well with 6.3 million video views, 1 million interactions, and a completion rate of 46%. Time spent on the end card. There's an end card as well along with this video, which takes users to a particular site. And here's an example of a full screen video done right here in India. The client is Dove.
Isn't it strange that in a country of 631 million women, there is still only one face of beauty when there is so much more to be admired? Let's break the rules of beauty.
And two more examples, which is about innovation and video concepts. So here, these are hotspot videos where users are actually nudged to interact with the ad unit. So take a look at the first one. It's again for Samsung. It's just a concept where you'll see these nudges where users are can click on that hotspot to understand more about the product. And similarly, so these are like interactive videos, and on the right you have a rich media shoppable video ad, again fulfilling the user's impulse shopping behavior by showcasing the products as the video is played. So take a look. So you can see after the video is played, you can see a sort of carousel, a vertical carousel of the products, and as the users click on those products, they can get more details. They can replay the ad as well. I also want to showcase some few innovation in video, which are concepts right now, might not have been picked up by advertisers. But here's one example of a hotspot video. The objective of this video is to nudge users, encouraging interaction with the ad unit to explore more about the product itself. And if you see the video, you'll see that I'm going to reduce volume, but as the video plays, you have this hotspot which lights up on different dimensions of on different products, and users are nudged to click on it, and then they're able to see more about the products once they click on those nudges. There's another similar example on the right, and if I play that one here again, you'll see that as the video plays, uh, towards the end of the video, so again, there are nudges and the products are getting displayed, and you'll see that towards the end of the video, you'll be able to see more details about each of the products as well. This is the user just scrolling through the different products which they just saw in the video, and they can do a replay, they can see more information as well. So as video advertising is growing, so in parallel, innovation in video ad formats is on the rise as well. Okay. uh, what's interesting is to know that it's not only that video ad consumption is increasing and that video ad innovation is increasing. What's also happening is that video ad formats are really delivering results. Clearly, the seamless synthesis of sight, sound, and motion that video ads offers is transforming marketing messages into powerful stories that inspire consumers to take action. While InMobi witnessed growth in mobile video ad consumption as stories became increasingly engaging, driving consumers to spend more time on mobile, we also saw excellent result in terms of metrics. And across both engagement and conversion, the different advertiser categories, video ads are performing better than static formats. So there's higher user engagement, up to 4x compared to static formats, 2x better conversions, and 80% completion rates that we are seeing with video ads. And across different advertiser categories, whether it's gaming, entertainment, social communication, we're seeing up to 6x engagement, and anywhere from up to 10x conversions, especially in the food and drink segment. So clearly a big win and a big trend for 2017 mobile video. So moving on to the second trend, which is around driving loyalty via remarketing. Now, uh, you know, while driving app discovery and installs is not getting any easier, and here's some data, right? So 25%, which is a really small fraction of iOS and Android users, are retained within the first 24 hours of app installation. Day 30 retention rates across iOS and Android users are again extremely poor. So, which means that people, while they might be installing an app, they're very quickly uninstalling it as well. An average time to uninstall an app after the first use is only around 24 hours. So, the app ecosystem is clearly reaching a tipping point. But what is encouraging is that app developers this year really started thinking about retaining users to be as important as acquiring users, and therefore the emerging need for remarketing. For all the performance marketers out here on the webinar today, if you look at your user journey from prospecting to acquiring, the focus is now increasingly on getting a user to really interact with your app for the first time, which is first event, and also to getting repeat users and re-engaging dormant users. It's the second part of the journey, phase 2 and phase 3, activation, re-engagement, and retargeting, where uh, uh, activation, re-engagement, and retargeting, where remarketing is really kicking in. And we saw significant growth in performance marketers leveraging the power of remarketing this year. So if you look at it, what has been interesting is that while some there have been some discussions that remarketing is most relevant for the retail or commerce segment, but we have seen that it's becoming important across various industry verticals. And here are a few use cases. So for example, in the taxi space, whether it's driving first rides from users who have installed the app but have not taken the ride yet, where the KPI measure is the first ride. In the entertainment segment, increasing the number of music streams and then measuring the incremental streams through remarketing. The social For social apps, driving really dormant users back into the app. So while they might have downloaded the app, they're not really engaging with the app anymore, and therefore the KPI that is being measured is app opens. And lastly, in terms of even if you look at the gaming segment, nudging users to move to the next stage of the game, which is, and the measure is a KPI. So as one can see, remarketing is really getting leveraged across various industry segments. And the impact delivered by the remarketing platform is visible to us as well. The results have been extremely encouraging across different verticals. We've seen good uplift in the metrics that matter to those segments. And here's just a sample of some of the segments. If you look at, excellent ROAS for the commerce segment, 30 to 50% uplift in incremental rides for the taxi segment, 15% reactivation rates in the entertainment segment, and 5 to 6x growth in average revenue per user. So, this is the end of the first two trends, which is video and remarketing. As we move to the next trend, which is programmatic, we've seen a big uplift in programmatic over the last year and expected to be a big trend in 2017 as well. I'm going to hand over to Vasuta, who's going to take this section on programmatic. So, welcome, Vasuta, to the webinar.
Thanks, Supriya. And thanks for those insights on the video and remarketing front. Just switching gears a little bit, right, and moving to the programmatic side. So the programmatic part of the business, as you will see, from the upcoming slides, is an emerging trend more in the Western markets, and I think markets like US and Europe have really sort of picked up on this trend much more than some of the Asian markets. The reason for this is, of course, clearer because programmatic is a push towards more, efficient spends with better ROIs. And we've seen a lot of these trends, a lot of times start from the US and Europe and then percolate slowly to the Asian markets. So if you see the data, you see that almost 67% a quarter by quarter comparison of last year. It shows that 67% of the spends by region it came from North America. We also did a survey, a programmatic buyers survey of almost 180 marketeers. And the insights emerging from them are very, very clear, right? It shows that 75% of the marketeers which were surveyed used programmatic for buying smartphone inventory, and 24% of them had been incorporating it into their strategies for more than 2 years now, right? And some of the reasons for that is, of course, that there's a huge element of efficient and transparent buying when it comes to programmatic. However, we have seen that, as you see, APAC is not, seen that adoption happen so quickly. And one of the reasons for that could be that when it comes to the inventory being available on open exchange, there are some concerns that marketers still have towards things like, could it be fraud traffic or bot traffic and so on. So I think just the quality of the inventory available sometimes on the open exchange is not very clear for people. And I think as that transparency and fraud prevention measures improve, we should see a better adoption of programmatic even in the APAC markets. If you look at the programmatic ad spending by verticals, right, across regions, retail and entertainment were the leading advertiser categories on mobile when it comes to programmatic spends. And in parallel, if you also look at the same, programmatic buyer survey that we were referring to in the earlier slide, almost 85% of the mobile programmatic spends came from the Fortune 500 brands, at least on the InMobi network, right? So clear skew that we're seeing at least in the last year on the kind of verticals that are focusing on programmatic, and even how some of the top brands have started to make that shift. So, wrapping up this, just slide on mobile programmatic, if you see in terms of just the ad formats where we saw maximum spends on programmatic, I think video is a clear, winner in that way, which means that a lot of the marketeers who are spending on mobile programmatic are actually finding value on video programmatic, right? And in terms of, again, just the percentages, if you see, there is a difference of almost between 44% of the total share to about 12% in case of rich media and 2% in case of interstitials. And as some of you will probably know, mobile programmatic is going to be one of the waves of the future, and we forecast that it will be almost a 20 billion industry by the end of this year. So I'll hand over to Supriya for the next section, which is about our sort of, Asia trends.
Thanks, Vasudha. Why we wanted to talk about Asia is that, basically regions where we are really seeing a high potential for growth and are rising. And Southeast Asia, we are all sort of aware of some of the drivers of mobile growth in Southeast Asia: low cost of smartphones with availability of local manufacturers. Second point is around better infrastructure and improved connectivity, which is making high speed internet available to smartphones, both 3G and 4G, and of course affordable data plans from telcos as well. So if you look at some of, if you look at the markets within Southeast Asia, and we've just covered a few, and I'll go one by one on this. So again, if you look at Indonesia, fairly high smartphone penetration of around 40%, and forecasted smartphone penetration of almost, an increasing smartphone penetration of up to 47%, with mobile's share of digital ad spend around 23%. And also on the InMobi network, we've seen in the last year growth in advertiser spend of almost up to 200%. Again, Singapore, much higher smartphone penetration. Of course, there are different numbers available in the market, from 75 to up to 95% smartphone penetration in Singapore, but fairly high. And the digital share of total ad spend is around 10% in Singapore. We on the Mobi network saw a growth in advertiser spend of almost 35%. So again, a very significant increase in advertiser spends in Singapore. Thailand, again, mobile internet penetration is high, forecasted to increase further. And at the InMobi network, we saw a 68% increase in app installs. And Malaysia, again, similar trends in terms of mobile internet penetration. And on the InMobi network, an increase of 97% in advertiser spend. So clearly, between Indonesia, Malaysia, some of the, very high growth markets that we're expecting to see a lot of high growth in terms of mobile marketing over the next year. Okay. So moving to China, with a very high smartphone penetration, China is a great market where mobile is poised to be almost 80% of digital ad spends as early as 2019. And in addition, in Mobi actually saw 115% growth in app installs in 2016 in China, and we forecast this to be much higher in 2017 as well. Okay. India. Couple of you might be from India, and again here, a lot of numbers around smartphone penetration, how many internet users are coming online via their mobile devices. But the message here is very clear. India is a market where uh, people have gone online first with the mobile phone. So, a truly mobile first market. InMobi saw a significant increase in terms of app installs on the InMobi network, almost 132% increase in app installs. In addition, we saw ad spends increase up to about like 100% increase in ad spends from travel advertisers, so a very significant increase there. We saw 50% increase in ad spends from retail advertisers in India, and already spoken about mobile video ads, and but in India we saw 243% growth in ad spends on mobile video on the InMobi network. So clearly mobile video is going to be a big trend in India going forward. So, moving on to the next big trend, which is around mobile measurement and attribution. And I'll hand over again to Vasuta for this.
Okay, thanks, Supriya. So, moving to the mobile measurement and attribution bit, right? So, I think a quick poll, right? Do any of you have, a third-party tracking or attribution partner that you use? The question should come up on the screen, so feel free to, just fill up your votes on the poll question. Okay, so interesting, set of responses that are coming up here. So I think most of you have voted. So I think almost, 30% people are actually saying that you don't have a third-party attribution partner, and another 17% who would be willing to explore, right? Which means that almost 50% of our audience here today actually, for you, this trend, makes a lot of sense to just understand quickly. So, a lot of you as marketeers have spent, media budgets across channels, whether that's TV, whether that's desktop, and, now on mobile. And to assume that the same, tracking and measurement solutions work across different channels is basically a recipe for disaster, right? Putting it that way. So, because what would happen is that mobile, by very virtue of the channel, is the most measurable channel that you have across all media channels. And in spite of that, you're not able to really leverage the measurement and tracking capabilities of that channel, right? So, as we move into 2017, you will see that mobile measurement will get more and more sophisticated, and there will be an increasing demand from your advertisers and any kind of advertising partner for third party partnerships for attribution, right? Because I think. Of course, if you're running something, you need to measure it and see how it actually pans out, right? And I think more than anything else, the need for a trustworthy and independent measurement partner will become extremely critical as we move into 2017. In addition to that, another trend that you will see is that cross platform measurement, right, which is not, say, measuring just on mobile or just on desktop, but cross platform measurement across channels and platforms will really start becoming the key to success for most of your performance marketing campaigns. So, if you look at mobile measurement across the advertising life cycle, right, how does it really work, right? If you look at a user life cycle, then it starts with actually acquiring the user. and then activating them in terms of either the first transaction or the first registration or the first purchase, and then actually retaining the user over a period of time through either repeat purchases and transactions, or if the user goes dormant, trying to reactivate and re-engage them, right? So really, mobile measurement is not just a point in time event, but something that you have to do over the life cycle of the user's journey on your product or on your platform, right? And in this case, if you see, measurement and tracking becomes important because you are actually looking at measuring different metrics at each life stage, right? So it could be impressions, clicks, and installs in the user acquisition phase. It could be the first, lifetime value event in case of the user activation stage. And in case of user retention, we go into more complex metrics like measuring ROAS, which is return on ad spend, or GMVs. So really, the sophistication of the deliverables and the metrics goes on increasing, and hence the need for mobile measurement and attribution to play a critical role as we go into 2017. Moving on to the next trend, which is location targeting, right? And I think most of you would be aware of location targeting in terms of what it means. But I think really what you will see in 2017 is a lot of sophistication when it comes to the world of location targeting. So, as you would obviously know, that there is a huge rise in the smartphone adoption across markets, and hence it becomes important for you as a marketeer to reach your audiences at the right moment, but at the right moment when the user is on his mobile phone at a particular location, right? And mobile app optimization for location will become increasingly important through the use of technology, which means that as you see your taxi apps, or your delivery apps, or any kind of apps which use location signals and which use maps or any kind of GPS data, all of those will have to become increasingly smart to be able to reach the target audience at the right time. You will also see more and more brands wanting to do micro location targeting, right? Which could be at a particular event on a particular day, right? Which combines elements of both location targeting, time targeting, and different kinds of messaging for a particular event or occasion. So just to share an example of what location targeting could look like in action, right? And these are some of the very interesting location targeting based campaigns that we ran in Southeast Asia last year. One that you see is for the brand Rexona, which was run in Jakarta. And this was it actually used two elements, right? Where it picked up weather feeds to see whether a particular area in the city or in the region was very dusty, right, or very hot, using the temperature information, the weather information from the weather feed on the phone. And depending on where the user were, we were able to detect temperature at different parts of the city, and then actually suggesting a product, a Rexona product, based on the temperature and the weather conditions in that micro location, right? So you can see how location targeting is being used at its very best here, combining with different elements of weather and surroundings. The other example is that of Sunsilk from Singapore. This was actually a campaign which was run to drive footfalls to the salons, the Sunsilk pop-up salons, which were set up all over the city to actually give people, a haircut, or some sort of special makeover. And what we saw here again was that using people's location and knowing that if they were in the vicinity of one of these pop-up salons, we were able to actually drive them to these salons. And we saw almost a lift, 70% lift in brand awareness, and a 200% lift in likelihood to actually recommend the product. So these are some examples, and I'm sure as you venture into 2017, a lot of these very interesting use cases and examples will become important to leverage location targeting.
So I'm moving towards the end now. That's what we had for you. We can take a few minutes. If you have any questions, just ping us in the questions window. I also wanted to share that if you want to look at more insights, we have a great yearbook which is available on our website in mobi.com/yearbook-2016. We are broadcasting the link to all of you as well right now. You can take a look at it, download that yearbook. You'll get even more insights about how 2017 is going to look like and the year gone by as well. So I'll take a moment and see if there are any questions. Otherwise, uh, that's what we had for you today. We have a couple of questions coming in. I'll just share with you that we will be sharing this deck with all of those of you who registered with us. But I'm passing it over to Vasudha to answer some of the questions which are coming in.
Yeah. So I think one of the questions is how will mobile advertising help startups, right? So I think this is, of course, if you are anywhere in launching a startup which is in the digital or mobile domain, then mobile advertising would be one of the key pillars for your growth, right? Because whether it is user acquisition through app downloads or user reactivation and re-engagement through remarketing, mobile advertising will play an important role if you are a startup in the digital ecosystem. And on the flip side, of course, if you are also looking to monetize through ads, then again, mobile advertising plays a very, very relevant role, right? So if at a later point you want to send like a specific question on this, then we can also send you a follow-up answer. Another question is, how is this relevant to ad networks, right? So I think all of the trends that we talked about, right, almost all of them apply to the ad network business, right? Because whether it is video advertising, whether it is remarketing, whether it is various markets as well, I think as an ad network business, if you are looking to grow in the coming year, then these are some of the important areas to really focus on because that's where the market is moving. Another question is, would mobile advertising be useful for a company offering a service, right? Again, I think if you are a company which works in the mobile or the digital space, then again mobile advertising can be very useful for you to create some sort of a brand presence, to actually talk about your products and so on, through mobile as a medium. And if you are actually looking to again offer mobile monetization as a service, then again it becomes relevant in that way. Yeah, so one of the questions is, do you see SMS engagement continue to be a part of the mobile story in India? So I think SMSs and email marketing both have been used so far, as a form of re-engagement and retargeting with clients. And while it will continue to be a part of the mobile story, I do think that with smarter means to reach your users and be able to track them to the to the the last event, that becomes more possible through options like app based or mweb based remarketing. So in summary, it will be a part of the story, but I think the percentage share will probably reduce in the coming years. Is there a metric clarifying data about engaging ads versus simple video ads? Do engaging ads translate into more sales? Right. So again, here I think what you can, the possibility to link sales or any kind of events with either rich media engaging ads or video ads, it exists for both. I think as a marketer you have to decide what your primary campaign objective is. If your primary campaign objective is to drive sales, then it is important to think about not just the ad format but various other things like targeting, relevance and audience segments, because that's what will actually translate into sales. The video ads or the engaging ads or the native ads are just a means to reaching the right target audience. Another question is, can location targeting be as narrow as a store in a mall? The answer is yes, that is technically feasible, that you can, locate someone in a radius of about 50 to 100 meters, provided, the data, the location data signal that you get from that handset is a latitude and longitude signal, right? If it is a very generic Wi-Fi IP address signal, then it becomes tougher to, go as accurate as that. But technically, it is possible. Another question is, wouldn't mobile video ads increase the load times for apps and websites? I think this is a very good question, and I think this is a challenge, especially in India, where your internet speeds and mobile data speeds are quite limited. What we've seen is, from an advertising standpoint, that optimizing for things like what kind of connection the user is on, and then deciding whether to serve them in a video ad or not serve them a video ad, right? Similarly, things like pre-caching, buffering of the video ad so the user's experience improves, right? All of these things overall help in the increasing the responsiveness of the app, of the website, right, and the user experience. So while load times is something to worry about, I think solving for those through these technology sort of innovations is what is important. I think there is a question also on the cost, the pricing when it comes to video ads. Typically, as a publisher, you will see higher, ECPMs on video ads because it's a higher engagement format. And from the advertising side, also yes, typically, the cost per clicks or the cost per impression that you will see on video ads will tend to be higher, but that is justified by, the engagement of the format.
Okay, I think we have just a few more questions, but we're sort of running out of time. So what we'll do is that we'll feel free to reach out to us on email, and we'll definitely respond to your questions. But thank you so much, all of you, for joining us. Hope this was useful, and stay tuned. We'll be doing webinars in 2017 regularly. If you have some areas of interest, feel free to reach out to us and let us know if you'd like us to cover some specific topics as well. And don't forget to download our yearbook on inmobi.com/yearbook 2016. So thank you once again, and hope to see you again over a webinar shortly in 2016 and 2017.